So it is important to maximize your energy. That's the entire purpose of this chapter. Um, in English, because I've taught English language, use of English and all that. So what has just happened here is what we call a topic sentence. So he provides what the chapter is about in the very first sentence. It's also a topic sentence is also an effective way to write. Putting the topic sentence first is also an effective way to write a book like this, because if you notice from this book, it doesn't have long chapters really. His goal is not to write the typical traditional publication worthy book. Okay, he just goes straight to the point. He's very practical about all the insights that he shares. And so in this chapter, look at how the very first statement he makes is the summary, or a summary of what the entire chapter is about. So subsequently, we're just going to see explanation about this. But energy audit is about maximizing energy. You perform best when you're doing things that energize you. Let's highlight this too. You perform best when you are doing things that energize you. Your goal should be to spend most of your time doing things that energize you. If you do, magic will occur. Wow. I think a similar statement to this is the one that Steve Jobs made when he gave that famous, was it commencement speech? But he gave that famous speech. He said, you get to love your job, or you got to love what you do. So what he's saying is, um, if we mix those ideas with that idea with this one, we mix both ideas together. What Mochary is saying here is that your goal should be to spend most of your time, 75 to 80%, doing things that energize you. You don't want to spend them doing things that do not energize you. And if you remember, in a previous chapter in this book, it said something to the effect that you, oh, and I've just noticed this thing about myself. Whenever I'm at the verge of saying, I'm about to say something, and I think I'm going to forget it, or that I'm forgetting it, I definitely, or I almost certainly forget it at that instant. I don't know why that is. I need to look into it. So it says your goal should be to spend most of your time, 75 to 80%, doing things that energize you. And I think in a previous chapter, it said a similar thing about spending time doing something that energizes you, but it didn't use the word energize. So let's just go back to that chapter and let's try to see what that chapter was about. Um, yeah, so I think it said spend time doing the thing um, that you that you feel most attuned to. I think that's a paraphrase. But remember that top goal. Yeah, when we did top goal in chapter 6, no, chapter 6 wasn't about top goal. Chapter 5 was about top goal. Remember, we said we want to wake up every morning spending 2 hours, like roughly for a start. Then maybe we can move, progress into 4 hours, or maybe spending the entire day working on top goals. But essentially, it says you want to spend the best part of your morning where you have the biggest energy doing the thing that moves the needle the most. That's on your top goal. So I think it's a similar idea to energy. You want to spend your energy doing the thing that energizes you. And if your top goal energizes you and you spend your morning, the best part of your time, or your entire energy, it says 75 to 80% doing what energizes you. Do you know how much motivation you're going to feel? Like you're going to be incredibly confident that you can turn things around for your business, turn things around for your clients, or even turn things around for yourself. I need to get into this space. And I think that's one of the things about successful people. I really haven't met successful people who are very sad. I think when people, successful people become it's like sad and depressed, that's when they lose the hang on the success that they've achieved, or they just start feeling defeated. But most successful people that I've watched, read about, are usually very optimistic. They are high energy. It's not like they are very energetic like Tony Robbins, but they have a mental energy that makes them open to possibilities. They're always seeing good things happening. They know how to sell things instantly. But the person who doesn't have this energetic approach to life is always, even when they work in sales, I don't know how you can be in sales and not be energetic. But if you're a CEO, you're effectively the the number one seller of a product or whatever you and your team are working on. So you want to be energetic every time, not like you should be bouncing up and down, but you want to be in a position where, and if you're working for a CEO, I need to just permanently put myself in a state of both gratitude, appreciation, pushing my top goals every 2 hour, every morning with the first 2 hours. I, I want to be in a permanently positive context, especially if I want to be as successful in this field as will be required of my next client, right? And even as a CEO, you you want to be in that same sense. You cannot be a successful person in the business world if you're not energetic. You don't feel motivated to do the thing that you feel called to do or that you want to contribute to the world. So it says here, your energy, 75 to 80% of your energy should be spent doing things that energize you, that motivate you, that make you feel strong and well and positive about the world and your business and your company. It says here, get two highlighters, pens or pencils of different colors. Red and green are ideal, but any will do. Print out the last week of your calendar when you were working. Go through each work day hour by hour and ask yourself, did that activity give me energy or drain my energy? So in executive assistance, like your virtual assistants, well, one of the very first things that we do when we start with a new client that I've learned is that you want to go into the calendar, and especially when your executive gives you their brief or you get a brief about the executive, one of the things they would say in that brief is what energizes the executive. So you go into the calendar and you look at the last 1 month and see if that executive spends time doing what energizes them. Because if they haven't spent time doing what energizes them, you want to put them immediately into that space where they're spending time doing what energizes them the most. That's when you're going to make them feel good about themselves. And I remember in a previous chapter, one of the things that he said was that you want to spend time doing, you see that top goal thing, you want to spend time on that top goal, okay? But you also want to spend time doing high level things and not just little things that you can have your assistant doing. We're going to get to that point, more of that point later. But you see this point about reviewing the calendar to see in the previous month, the executive, or even for myself in my previous month, I do not have that. I don't have my previous month detailed in my calendar, but I know that in December and in the previous month, I did a lot of writing. And because I did a lot of writing, I really felt good about communicating with the world again. And now, weeks later, I'm not doing as much writing, but now I'm teaching a course, even though I've always known I want to be doing this and I like doing this, right? But I just said write again. So that's something about me I should watch, but you see this feedback you're getting, right? I just said write again. Oh, you see the feedback you're getting. You don't get this from a fully established course, and I'm trying to cut back on this repetition. But I think the reason I do it intuitively is because I have I know someone who every time he talks he uses the word right, right, right. It says online, right, right. We use that kind of cue when we're teaching, and I think this comes from my teaching experience, to check in with our students. Once you say something like right, you're sort of trying to get feedback from people. And right now, I'm doing a video course, and I'm still saying right, as if you're getting. I'm going to get feedback from you right away. So it's just funny, but I think it's a good thing that you can get feedback like this, and to see what happens behind the scenes, so you can also um, maybe not appreciate, but in your own context, you know that if perfection is a progressive thing. Perfection is progressive. That's the only way to think about perfection in a healthy way, that it is progressive. You don't have to cut the video to a point where every statement you make has a piece cut out, and your audience just sees the fast paced video and doesn't feel a connection to you while you're saying these things. Or you even have ChatGPT write the script for the video, and you just focus on maybe not saying it literally, because I see some YouTubers these days, you can't tell if they're reading from a script unless you can see if they're wearing a pair of glasses, you can see the teleprompter off of their glasses. But I think building connection is one of the reasons we started out sharing videos and talking to people in the first place. If we do not have that natural flow of communication anymore, it's now hyper correct, then it almost doesn't, you don't build connection that way. At least I've watched some top YouTubers, and this is by no means a way of talking them down, but I just wish that they weren't so concerned about making a perfect video, and they were just genuinely sharing things from their experience. I'm getting frequently disappointed. Like, they have really great things to say, but they don't spend time saying it and explaining it. They just say it and then they move to the next point. I mean, in a 15 minutes video, for example, somebody gives you a 10 points list of things to do. They're just reading out the list effectively. They aren't spending time sharing the idea with you and making you feel the energy that they felt when they practice that thing or when they learn that thing. Okay, so let's continue with the chapter. So we said that he says that go through each workday hour by hour and ask yourself, did that activity give me energy or drain my energy? Highlight in green those that gave you energy, and in red those that drowned or those that drained your energy. There are no neutrals. Every hour, it's written here hour, but it's every hour. I'm going to correct it for myself. Every hour should every hour must be marked by must be marked must be marked one color or the other. Yeah, must be marked one color or the other. When finished, look for patterns of where or how your energy is drained. Now, think of ways to outsource or eliminate those activities. This is very important. We want to spend 75, at least 75 from what he's taught now, that we want to spend 75% of our energy doing what energizes us. For the other things that don't energize us, we either want to outsource them, that is, give them off to a personal assistant, and that's one of the things that you're just going to get as a virtual assistant. Like, your CEO, if your CEO knows about this idea, they are just going to continue doing all the things that they love doing, and then they'll be giving you the things that they don't like. And because they don't like doing that thing, you have to do excellently the things that they do not like doing. And I hope that the things that they do not like doing are things that you like doing. Because if there are things that you do not like doing, then that's going to be a problem for both you and the CEO. But yeah, keep doing this energy audit each month until 75% or more of your time is spent doing things that give you energy. If you do, you'll be able to achieve far more in less time. Remember, he said that's the reason people do not feel like they're moving forward, even though they spent a good amount of time doing like working is because they work on things that do not move the needle forward. Like they work on every other thing except the top goals, the most important things that you should be working on. So you see, you might say, "Oh, I'm so tired. I've been working on this. I've been doing this, that," and then they do not feel like they've made progress. One of the things that we've learned so far in this book, and I think we learned that in chapter 1 or 2, is because all the things that you spend your energy doing most, or if not, yeah, all the things you spend your energy doing the most were things that did not move the needle forward. They weren't top goals. They weren't the most important things you should be doing. So you spent an entire month being busy, but you feel unsatisfied. It only means one thing, that you were doing the things that did not give you energy. You were working on every other thing except your top goals. The lesson here is you want to work on your top goals. If your top goals give you energy, great. If your top goals don't give you energy, then maybe you should refine your top goals. But the point is, you want to spend your time doing the thing that you find the most energetic, that reinvigorates you. If working on sales or product management and development gives you the biggest energy, then by every means reasonably necessary, work on that and then offset all other things like administrative things which drown your energy to someone like your virtual or executive assistant, or to your team or the responsible department. Because if you do that, he says, Mochary says, you will perform far better. You'll be in your zone of genius. So the energy audit helps the CEO get into their zone of genius. The mindset you should take here is that you want to spend your time doing the things that energize you the most. This is slightly different from the analogy I talked about, citing Steve Jobs, and he talked about follow your passion, do what you love. In this one, he says, do what energizes you. Of course, what you love has a higher tendency than any other one thing to energize you. Yeah, but you may not necessarily love it. But I think that if you spend your amount of time, is the most amount of time doing what energizes you, some way, somehow, you're going to love it. There's no difference between it, to be honest. To be honest, there's no difference. Doing what you love, doing what energizes you. Imagine when you have, even in relationships, you might have a bad day, but as soon as you see your spouse, you just light up because you love them. Spending time with them is love for you. You feel loved and you also give love. And because you do that, you feel energetic when you're around them. So doing spending your time the most on what you love is going to give you energy, and it's as good as saying spend your time the most time, 75% of your time, doing what energizes you. So I think the reason he may not have used the word love is because this is business. So energy sales, of course, a CEO is most likely going to be enthusiastic or feel energized when he notices that his company is making very good sales. So if you spend the most time doing what you feel what energizes you, you're going to fall or stay in your zone of genius. What is the zone of genius? You have four zones. Okay, the zone of genius is one of the four zones. You have zone of incompetence. That is when you're doing things that you do not have the capacity to do, the mental capacity or the skill or experience or expertise to perform. Then you have zone of competence. That is, you're doing something that you're very good at. And the zone of excellence. You're doing something that you are the absolute best at. We're going to go into it, but this is just me saying my opinion about it. And you have the zone of genius. The zone of genius is when you spend. I think the zone of genius is like a combination of the other positive two, which is zone of competence and zone of excellence. Yeah, you spend your energy, you spend your time doing the thing that energizes you the most. And the thing that energizes you the most, I think, are things that you feel competent at, the things that you like, the things that you enjoy doing, the things that whenever even when somebody gives you a negative feedback, you just feel challenged, you feel motivated to sort it out. Yeah. So let's go into the 4 zones. But it says effectively that if you spend your time doing the things that energize you, 75% of your time doing the things that energize you, you're going to get into the zone of genius. So let's just look at the other 3 zones first before it explains the zone of genius. So zone of competence are things that other people probably do better than you, e.g., that is fix your car. You could be the richest man in the world, um, but you would almost, maybe not almost certainly, but I don't think that Bill Gates, for example, fixes his own car because we've never known Bill Gates to be a person who fixes cars. We know he is the man behind Windows operating system, and he's a computer person, but not a car person. Maybe he has some very fancy cars, but I don't. If someone told me Bill Gates fixes his own car, I'll be like, oh, that's something new. That's a lesson, but not. Because I don't even think he would consider that as being in his own area of competence. So the zone of incompetence are things that other people like, even even a child will be better at it than you, because a child, a teenager who starts out learning um uh how to repair cars in about 1 year would be better than most people who even have expensive cars. So anybody or most people will be better at it than you, even if that person has less experience. That's the point of incompetence. It means that you don't know how to do that thing. And it's okay. Like, I don't think any reasonable CEO or any successful CEO is somebody who knows how to do everything in the world for himself. No, I don't. That's not the point of being a CEO. So, zone of competence are things that you do just fine, but others are as good as you. Zone of competence, things that you do just fine, but others are as good as you. You do it just fine, but other people are just as good. Okay, that's the zone of competence. Remember, the zone of incompetence are things that you don't know how to do. Others are very likely better at it than you are. That's the zone of the competence. Other people are better at it than you are, than you. Okay, not than you are. So zone of excellence are things that you do better than others, but don't love doing it. It says zone of excellence are things that you do better than others, but don't love doing. Wow. Notice what it says here. It says this is a danger zone. Why does it say this is a danger zone? Let's pay attention. Zone of excellence are things that you do better than others, but you do not like doing it. Let's see it. Yeah. So this is the danger zone. Many people will want you to keep doing these things as those people gain derive benefits from you doing them. Gain derive. Okay, so that place needs editing. Maybe in this book they eventually edited some of these typos or errors. I think they must have done that, and some must have passed or edited this book for publication on Amazon. So most people, because you are good at it and you don't love doing it, when people know that you're great at it, they would always be happy if you do them. But you can do it excellently, but you don't just like doing them. So that is not energizing you, even though you do it excellently. It doesn't provide you energy. So I think that is why he says that this is a danger zone. Because if people can see, especially people who aren't good at it and don't also like it, they aren't good at it. It's their zone of incompetence, and they don't even like it. Then they will effectively prefer if you get it done, or they'll just do it shabbily because they know, oh, since you are good at it, and once you see it, you're effectively going to take it over, And while you would even eat doing it, because of course you know how to do it, but you don't want to spend your time doing it because you have this tendency to fix it into the perfect shape you want. You're very likely, against your own emotional disaffection for it, going to do it. So other people will derive benefits over you doing it, but not you. So that's problematic, because as a CEO, if you do it better than your executive assistant, you want to train your executive assistant to a point where they become as excellent as you are, or even better than you are, so that you can easily just trust them to get that thing done. Because if you can do it better than your executive assistant, or you don't delegate that as somebody who can do it as excellently as you, whenever they do their best, you're going to be tempted to take that task upon yourself. And you don't want to do that, because if you take that task upon yourself, even though you'll end up doing that task better, you wouldn't be satisfied with it. And that feeling of dissatisfaction is a bad feeling for CEOs, because it's going to make you feel um, um, unempowered, like you're going to feel drained. Remember earlier in chapter 1, or was it chapter 2, we said you don't want to spend time doing every other thing except the thing that energizes you. We said that in this is what we're talking about in zone of energy. But I think then in chapter 1 or chapter 2, we're talking about things that move the needle forward, like your top goal. You don't want to spend time doing every other thing, and then by the end of the month you are tired, you feel exhausted, you feel like you've been doing so many things, but you don't feel like you've progressed because you spent time doing every other thing except something that you are good at. That's your top goal. In the zone of energy, it is also the same thing. If you spend time doing every other thing that you are excellent at, but not things that energize you, you're going to feel maybe not bitter is maybe bitter is not the word, but you're going to feel unempowered. You're not going to be happy. You wouldn't be energetic. You'll be drained. So you don't want to be in the zone of excellence. You want to be in the zone of genius. The zone of genius are the things that you are uniquely good at in the world and that you love to do. The zone of genius is your excellence combined with love. Like, think of your excellence combined with love. In zone of excellence, you are just good at it, better than most people, but you don't love it. In the zone of genius, you are absolutely good at it, better than most people, and you love it. I love facilitating sessions. I love having interviews. I love nonfiction. I love problem solving. So if I spend most of my time in education and in operations, either doing content writing or operations within the space of education, especially working with a coach or a consultant, I'm going to be in my zone of genius, even though I'm not the CEO. I'm going to be in my zone of genius, working under somebody else. Even though I take over the administrative things that they don't like, I'm going to be in a zone of genius. Why? Because I will be doing things that I'm excellent at and that I love doing. That's the zone of genius. That's where you want to be. So he says, you are uniquely good at it in the world. That's zone of genius, and that you love to do so much so that time and space likely disappear when you do them. This is where you can add most value to the world and yourself. This is where you should be driving towards spending most, if not all of your time. Remember, we said that your energy audit, the point of doing an energy audit is to find the things that give you energy and to spend 75% of time doing them. Once you are spending 75% doing things that give you energy, you're spending time doing it ineffectively means that it's not ineffectively. It effectively means that you're doing things that you're good at and things that you love. You're doing things that you're good at and things that you love. you're dedicating your energy to things that you're good at, you're uniquely good at in the world, and that you love. When you are committed to that kind of work, you won't notice how time flies. That's what it's saying. This is where you should be driving towards spending most, if not all, of your time. Some people worry that if each of us operates solely in our zone of genius, that no one will be available to do the unfun stuff. This is false fear. It says it's false fear because I can assure you that anything. Well, I'm not a CEO, I'm not a successful CEO yet, so maybe I cannot assure you. But I've heard it said by HR, like some global successful HR professionals have said. I think it was a level CEO who said something to the effect that um, I think in their legal team, the what's this person the chief legal officer, I think someone like that, he said, um loves to do advocacy. Any part of legal work that would involve sitting down and pouring through documents, it doesn't like it at all. But this is the chief legal officer of a successful multi-million dollar organization saying he doesn't like going through documents. So what they eventually did is when they were looking for virtual assistants, legal virtual assistants, they found a legal virtual assistant who said during the interviews that the thing that gives him the most amount of energy is just when he's going through documents, and he's good at it. He loves just sitting down with documents. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He just wants to go through documents and look for loopholes in documents. And so it was the perfect fit for the chief legal officer in levels, because the chief legal officer enjoys the more advocative side of things, talking to clients, securing deals, like just being with other human beings and doing legal stuff. But his assistant loves sitting down with documents, going through documents, and then being the brains behind to say, this is what we should be paying attention to. This is the loophole that we should sort out, and so on and so forth. So that kind of combination are great for each other. Both of them are in their zone of genius. Is it boring to the chief legal officer to sit at the desk and be looking at documents? Absolutely. It was boring for him, so he hates it. But then that boring thing is the joy of his assistant. So Mochary says this is false fear. He says there are many personality types. For every activity that feels unfun to you, there is someone out there who not only excels at it, but loves it. Absolutely loves it. It's boring to you, but somebody loves it, and they do an amazing job at it. Yes, even the horrible tasks like firing people. Aha. Some HR people are so kind. They don't want to be the one to tell somebody you're fired, even though if you do not fire that person, it's going to affect the business negatively. They don't want to be the person who says it. But then there are some people who just love it. Like once they find that you are causing problems for the business and you are not helping the business make profit and you're just draining the business, they will be happy to be the one to sign off your letter of permanent leave, so to speak, like give you the love letter that you've been this and that, or maybe they'll be just so blunt to just tell you we don't need you anymore, and that's it. But there are people who love that kind of thing because for them they love it, right? And they are good at quelling it. Is it quelling? Like weathering the storm in that regard. They can manage it so well. They write you a very romantic love letter that effectively just says you're fired, and then you wouldn't feel bad. But somebody else who don't like it will maybe be crying and telling you how sorry he is that he has to let you go, but he has to let you go because somebody over at the top said they should let you go. You know how they just effectively paint the boss is bad, just because they want you to feel good or they don't want you to feel bad. But then this is business and this is the company. If someone has to go, the person has to go. There are times like that. And then there are people who excel at it better than other people. So the key in any organization is for people to be transparent about what their zone of genius is, and then map all activities to the right people through an AORs list. AORs. We're going to get to chapter 20 eventually, where we'll be talking about AORs. Okay, so that brings us to the end of chapter 9. In chapter 9, we've been talking about the zone of genius, and we've been talking about energy audits, how to look at the things that give you energy, find them, spend more time on them. And because you spend more time on them, you just find that you are in your zone of genius, doing the things that you're absolutely good at and better than most people in the world at, and that you love doing. And we have said that the zone of genius does not mean that if everybody starts doing things in their zone of genius, there'll be nobody else in the world with all the unfun stuff that must be done. That is not correct. There are people in the world who like boring things and who would be so blessed to have a job where they're doing something terribly boring. See you in the next chapter.